second fight. how's it going? How is everybody doing here? All right, let's see here. I'm actually going to change this. Oh, is my screen? I'm changing my screen real quick so we can blow this picture up. There we go. Welcome to Small Biz and Coffee, everybody. I almost didn't make it to this live stream, but I am right on time. This is good. That's good. Cool. So we have coffee. Today is Dunkin' Donuts. I'm excited about that. So how is everyone doing today? Thank you guys for joining me on another podcast live stream. Small Biz and Coffee episode 12. I am very excited. So this morning I had to pick up my son from a little sleepover with his cousin, and there was a really bad wreck with a Coke 18-wheeler like Coca-Cola, and there was Coke cans everywhere, but we made it. And I'm also blind. My screen is very far, so I am trying to read your comments. I think I can see them pretty good. Hello, everybody. Wow, we have so many people tuned in today. Thanks for joining me for another podcast. Ooh, who has an iced latte? Ooh, you got your iced latte ready. Yes. Awesome. Wow, so I really love doing all of these lives, and today we are going to be talking about leveling up in business, but I'm just going to kind of give a few minutes for people to log on into the chat with us and join us live. So let me think of any updates going on with me. I'm going to get into what more in depth, but August was a really crazy month for me, and I feel like it was just not good as far as meeting deadlines, and which kind of all of that goes into leveling up in business, but I was just everywhere. We did the Macy's event, so if you guys want an update on the Macy's event, it was really, really good. It was a little different because, and one subscriber did come out, so it was really nice to meet her, but it was really different because I was like the only vendor there, and a lot of customers didn't know why I was there, so I had to explain to everybody why I was there. It was kind of like a featured seller event, but we still made sales. It was really hectic because, again, I was so busy this month that I really wasn't able to even prepare for Macy's until a few days before. So that was wild. It was a lot of sleepless nights leading up to the event, but it went well in the end. For some reason, it went well. So the staff at Macy's, it was the Market by Macy's in Fort Worth off of River Run Drive. The staff was really, really nice. A lot of them actually bought the candles, and they were really supportive, and they were even telling other customers about the candles. They were really nice. So hopefully I can work with them in the future. So we'll see if they come back and ask me to do a holiday event or something, but that was fun. It was stressful, but it was good to get out and talk to people. It was really good practice for the storefront. And then I did my first Pop Shop Live, which went really well. I was so shocked. There's an app called Pop Shop Live, and I was vetted as a seller on there, and it's basically like QVC but on your phone. So I don't know if any of y'all have ever used it. So I did my first live stream. It lasted about an hour, 15 minutes or something like that, and I made probably 20 or so sales from an hour live stream, which I thought was pretty good considering even posting on normal social media, sometimes a lot of the times actually that doesn't equal sales. So for me to get on for the first time and get people who've never seen me before was very interesting. So a lot of the viewers were actually not even aware of who I was. They just so happened to be on the app and they tuned into the live. So it was pretty good. So that was good. And I'll probably do more in the future. So I would love to do that. And let's see. Ooh, someone has chai tea. I like chai tea. Ooh, Thai tea too. I like Thai tea. Ooh, everyone's talking about their drinks. The hibiscus iced tea and a donut. Wow. You guys are ready to just like chill. So we did that. So it was just really busy. And then finally we got our sign installed. So on Instagram, I don't know. I think I posted TikTok and Instagram, but we got our big sign installed on the front of the building. It looks really, really nice. The company was just a nightmare, but the sign looks nice at least. So we got that done, and then we're still waiting on the furniture. So, but that's kind of what's going on. So if you see me like looking like this, it's because I'm trying to read the comments. All right, everybody. Nice seeing all of you guys here. But those were kind of my August updates, and it was just a mess. Like, you guys, it's just really hard doing all of this stuff, like pretty much by myself. So my husband is even going to help me by taking time off of work like once a week, which his job's very flexible because it's like a family business. So he's going to start helping me more here. And then while I figure out the hiring process and stuff like that for other people. But this month or August was really, really tough. So that's why I haven't really posted anywhere. I feel like my fall launches were just like okay. So I'm trying to get everything together for Halloween. I have one Halloween candle, which is right here. You guys can see. I don't know if you can see, but I just launched this like yesterday, very hurried in a very hurried way because I had wholesale orders. But this is a little jack-o'-lantern. It's called the Trick or Treat candle, and it smells like pumpkin crunch, the pumpkin crunch cake. And I know you can't see, but it has candy. So all of the listeners, if you're listening, it's the container. These were made, I made these little stickers, so I hand placed those stickers myself. So it looks like a jack-o'-lantern face, and it's orange with like yellow piping, and it has little candy embeds, and it smells delish. So this is what I've been burning, and this was my, I think my first Halloween candle actually of the year. So that one was nice, but I do plan on doing some more stuff. The Harry Potter candle is almost done. It's just, I'm just still testing the wick. So I'm just wanting to get the wick right on that. And then someone asked me to bring back the Hallows Eve box. So I was like, hey, yeah, I'll do that. So I'm going to launch Hallows Eve again. And it had like witch's brew and poison apple. Those were the scents in that box. Thank you. Congrats on Macy's. Thank you very, very much. So all of those updates, that's kind of what I've been up to for August. So let's actually dive into today's topic. And you can see my water bottle. That's not very, can you see it there? Yeah, you can see it there. Alrighty, I'll just put it here. All right, so today's topic is how to level up your business. Now, if you guys are very familiar with my story, which a lot of you probably are, I feel like I've told it a million times, but there's always new people who would like to hear. But in 2015, I started, my little candle business, and back then it was just normal single pour candles. I didn't know anything about dessert candles. I was still trying to figure out how to make candles. So I've been doing this since 2015, and when I first started, how did I fund my business? I think it was just, money that I invested from the job I was working at the time. And I did not invest a whole bunch when I first started. Literally, I remember I bought a Cricut machine, but my label design, at the time, I didn't know how to utilize all the space on a piece of paper on Cricut. And the Cricut machine was wasting so much paper that I just could not afford to waste all of that paper on my labels. So I had a Cricut machine, but I would hand cut my labels at the time because they weren't just like a square or circle. They were like kind of this fancy-ish design shape, and I didn't know how to do it on the Cricut. So my Cricut sat there while my husband and I would hand cut these labels because I just couldn't afford it. So, back then, very bootstrap, making candles, but I feel like it was all kind of just learning. The first few years, honestly, the first couple years was just kind of learning how to do everything. And the reason I wanted to really do this topic is because, especially with social media, I've been getting a lot of comments from people saying, I started my candle business, but it's not really going anywhere. So I think I'm just going to quit or whatever. But honestly, it takes a long time. So, like, when I talk about leveling up your business, it really is like you have to be really dedicated. And of course, there are some people who just go viral overnight. But for the most of us, that doesn't happen. I mean, that didn't happen to me. And honestly, I don't think my stuff ever goes viral like on TikTok. I mean, it's a couple of times it has, but I'd say that was like last year. In the past year, I haven't had it like viral videos or anything like that. But yeah, so a lot of people, especially with TikTok and stuff, because, with the For You page, all of those videos are for you, and all of those videos tend to already be viral. So you're not really looking at videos of people who are just starting, just like a lot of people out there. So it kind of puts this impression like in a lot of people's heads that, oh, everyone's going viral or everyone's business is doing so well, but it really isn't like that. But you can definitely still, if you're willing to, stick to it, and if you're in it for the long haul, there are some steps you can take to kind of, plan and level up your business pretty much like, every year or so. So later on at like 5, I'm doing a call with my students where we really focus on the first year of business, but this one is going to be more so like, a summary of at least my experience of how, I leveled up, my business and stuff like that. So hopefully that's interesting for you all. But anyways, I have my iPad. Let me unplug it. I just jot some notes down really quick. So I just wanted to ask, and feel free in the chat, like how many of you all feel like your business is just, it's kind of frustrating, or you feel discouraged a lot of the time, or you feel like everyone's passing you by. I feel like if you have that experience in the chat, you can just say it or, tell me. But for the most part, I think not everyone, but a lot of people do feel that way. And I still feel that way sometimes because, especially with all of my time constraints, especially having, a child, and then still having to do this business and not having people really helping me. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could get to this thing, but I just cannot get to it. There's no possible way. Fall launch is just a mess. I can't put a video out. My sponsor is like, emailing me like, hey, where's your video? So I feel like that too. So let me try to squint and see. Again, my eyes, I'm wearing contacts. I'm launching tomorrow. I'm so nervous. Congratulations. Some days I do. I'm just starting, and it feels like it's taking forever to get where I want to. Absolutely. My business is stagnant. Some days I feel so a lot of people do feel that way. So you're definitely not alone if that's you. And I know sometimes, especially on social media, like you scroll through and then like everybody's so happy-go-lucky, and then you see all their labels printing and all of their, truckloads of orders, but that really is not the majority of our businesses. That's, a select few people who've really done great, or maybe they've had a viral video. So, I mean, that is just, a glimpse of, one person's business amongst all of ours. So I definitely understand how you feel. And the business is pretty stagnant. It's starting to pick up for me right now, but I would say the past few months, business was really stagnant. And I think it had a lot to do with people getting the coronavirus shot, and then, spending money going out and taking trips that they missed out on. So business was abnormally slow compared to like previous years. It's always kind of slow in the summer, but it was really slow. I feel like it's starting to pick up now. I am overwhelmed, definitely. Even in my sleep, oh my gosh, I know how you feel, like seriously. What was that? I had to go to the farmer's market early because of school. I'm sorry, I'm trying to squint. Yeah, and especially when you do have a child, like business is hard where if you have a child or not. So, I mean, everyone can experience the ups and downs of business, but when you do have, a little one, it definitely does add another element to it. And especially because, you don't want to be like I could work all day. I love working by myself. I love working like in the middle of the night. I love working, but I can't do that to my son. So I have to kind of put times on it. So I've realized that for me, it's best when I split my day up because he does come with me to the office. But for him, sometimes he does sit in here for 8 hours. He has, his break room. But sometimes I'll split it up and I'll do 4 hours. We'll go home and then he'll do his, stuff at home. And then I'll come back later on in the night and do like another, sprint. So that's how I have to do it sometimes. It just depends on how he's feeling. I'm a mother of two. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to read this. Oh, it's going so fast. Oh, stay at home, mom, wife. And yeah, it does. Like launching your business. So when I first started my business, I was staying at home too on the weekdays, and then I worked on the weekends. So when you stay at home, you have to do all of those other little things, that go with staying at home, like taking care of the kids, plus, prepping meals and all of that other stuff. So that is very hard. So usually like you have to work like late at night, or if maybe you're a student and you go to school during the day and then you have to work at night, or if you, work during the day, pretty much if we have other things going on, you have to work at night. So I think a lot of people can definitely relate to the weird schedules and working a lot, and either you're at work or you're with your kids and then you have to work at night. It's really stressful, you guys. So I definitely feel where you're coming from. And sometimes it is so overwhelming because you're like, oh my gosh, like you see all of these other people, and sometimes, people tell me like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I'm trying to be honest with you guys. Like it is not like I'm probably working late, or I definitely do not have it all together. If that's what you guys think sometimes, I'm like, you see my YouTube schedule, I put out a video when I can, or, with launches and stuff, I'm like working really late. And so I definitely feel you guys on that. Oh yeah, paperwork, taxes, etc. I did all of that when I was making my candles. I started doing all of that, and I would say I was kind of already knowledgeable about those topics when I started my candle business. So I was very aware that I would need to get a separate bank account, keep track for taxes and all of that, because I had already been getting into like financial literacy before starting my candle business. So I kind of already knew that stuff. So I definitely implemented that when starting my candle business. Oh, someone has 3 dogs and a guinea pig. Oh my gosh. Oh man, that is a lot. To be honest, some days I really do like, I had to have a talk with my husband because he has to start, he doesn't have to, but he offered to start helping me more because it is really overwhelming. And he really believes in this whole thing. And he told me like, he said that it's gone a lot farther than he thought it would go. So he totally understands how overwhelming it can be. And I know sometimes, especially like, women or moms, we tend to kind of do things without saying much. So you'll get the groceries done and the cooking and stuff, and it's just a part of your day. But sometimes it's like when people start to see like, oh, that's a lot plus doing your stuff, it is nice to ask for help. So if there is someone in your life, it helps so much to have like help or something. So I'm really grateful that he can like take time off and start helping me, because it does feel bad. Let's see. Do you ever feel guilty of others, or make you feel guilty of giving something else attention instead of your kid? Oh, I hate when that happens to me. So luckily, I definitely understand what you're talking about, but luckily I haven't had that happen, but I can definitely see how that can happen. So if you have family members who, especially when you're starting your business, because a lot of people, to be honest, aren't really going to believe in your vision. There's going to be a select few people, if you are fortunate enough, that really see your vision. And when you're starting out, it's very hard to convince people, right? Because you're doing all of these things, but of course you're not really making money or making sales, or someone might look at the vanity metrics and say, oh, well, you only have 50 Instagram followers. Like, what are you really doing? But like I said, it's not overnight. That's like everybody has to start somewhere. And then, of course, you're going to have to be working. Like, you're going to have to treat it like it's your job, even when you're starting out. So it's a difference between when you're like in hobby mode and if you want to make it a business. If it's a hobby, it's something you just do when you have like, oh well, I feel like it. But if you're trying to make a business, now you're committing to, okay, every night I need to get on here and really work on my website, my products, my pictures. And sometimes when people see that, they'll be like, okay, you're doing all of this stuff, but they really may not believe that you're capable or things like that. So then they start to kind of shame you almost for like taking time doing that, and a lot of like mom guilt or something. But then when you start like actually making money, then okay, people start praising you like, oh wow, you built this thing from the ground up. But when you're doing it in the beginning, people really aren't as supportive. So don't listen to those people, to be honest. Luckily my husband was always supportive, but there are people who that I would work with sometimes in the professional realm, and they're very kind of like passive aggressive about your little business or whatever. So I definitely know what you mean, but don't listen to that. And as long as you feel like you're fulfilled, and I know like my son is here with me, but I'm working, and it's no different than like if I went out to the pharmacy where I used to work. Like, he's here with me, but I'm working, and then we have our time to spend together or whatever. And to be honest, I used to work a lot more when he was little because he would be sleeping or just like very unaware. So when he was 2 and under, I used to work a lot more, because he would just be like laying there playing, doing whatever. But now that he's older, he wants to do interactive stuff. So I have to kind of make time for that. So I've dialed it back now. But when he was younger, I worked a lot more. But I mean, if the outcome is that you are going to eventually be able to, stay with your kids more, take vacations, invest in their college and stuff like that. And sometimes you may have to, work a little harder. I wouldn't feel guilty about that, because your kids know. But as long as you are just taking some time, but I wouldn't let people get to you like that. Let's see. It's mostly from family. Yeah, I can say I don't have a really big family. So I could see how the bigger your family, the more people might actually, kind of discourage you. So I really don't have a huge family. So I didn't have to experience that at all. But I did get some kind of passive aggressive stuff from like, people I worked with, and, all of that. I remember there was an instance, this one particular person would always be like, well, businesses cost a lot of money, and, you're going to have to invest a lot of money and yada, yada, yada. But honestly, I didn't take out any loans or anything. It's totally possible, especially in this day and age where you can have a business and kind of like bootstrap it yourself. So there's so many tools out there, and just constantly learning, and there's so many free resources that you can really pull it together by yourself. So, but I mean, it does take a lot of time, and effort, definitely not an overnight thing. So, I know it's hard. And then maybe if you have a friend or maybe a like-minded person that you can talk to. I recently kind of developed a relationship with a person, and she is just so great to talk to. She also has a business, and we actually scheduled us a little meeting on Thursday where we talked about like the stresses. We talked about, future vision, someone you can trust with your ideas. So having someone like that is just like so valuable. So if you ever like make a friend or anything, or if there's someone you can talk to, then it just helps a lot with that kind of blocking out that negativity. Toddlers are a handful. Yeah, my son is 4, and I would have to say between 4, he's really good now, but I would say around 2 to 3, it was extremely hard to do work with him. But now he's 4, so he's not as hard. But I would say the easiest when he was a baby, because he'd sleep all the time. But now he wants to do like a lot more interactive stuff, and we do homeschool, so we make time for that. But toddlers, it's very hard with a toddler, and they like mess things up, so they'll pull your papers off, and It's very hard. Um, I'll be happy if I have one sale tomorrow. I think I did okay with social. See, that's good. And some days you don't make sales, and some days you make, sales. It's fine. Make it fun through the frustration. Yeah, I have my son. He helps me now, so he'll help me. Now he asks for jobs, so I'll give him little random things to do, like he'll put the packing peanuts in the box or put stickers on something. So just kind of including them, they'll have a lot more fun too. All right. Yeah, you guys. So, look, now we had this whole conversation. Now you all know that you're not alone, and there's so many people, including myself, that understand how overwhelming and how hard it can be to kind of start a business. And I watched this movie, I rewatched it, which I shouldn't have done, but because it makes me always so sad. I never cry at movies, but this was one that no matter what, I'm always going to cry. But it was The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith and his son. Oh, that movie gets me every time. But I watched that like last month when I was having a really hard month, just like really feeling down about not getting deadlines, not putting enough content out, and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, he went through all of that stuff, and, in the end, it all paid off. So sometimes you do have, a rough path, or rough patch, but if you keep on and kind of persevere, that's kind of the lesson of the movie. If you've all ever seen it, if you haven't seen it, you should really watch it. It's like a tearjerker, but in the end, you will feel very like almost empowered, like, wow, he did all of that, and I can definitely do it too. So I love that movie. I know that was my second time watching it, and I was like, ooh, I always avoid rewatching it, but oh my gosh, I watched it. I did it. I can't watch that. I know that I never cry at movies, but oh my gosh. Like it felt like everything like back to back to back was just going wrong for him. And he went through that too in the movie. It's not a spoiler, but his wife was very discouraging, and was telling him, like pretty much, what he wanted to do, and was telling him like, you cannot do that. Like, telling him it was unattainable. But if you just, sometimes you have to deal with people like that sometimes. But, when you keep on and you kind of, it helps just to keep on and, stay focused on the end goal. Yeah, I love to watch that movie when I'm feeling defeated. And I think that's why I watched it, because I was really like feeling like wow, what have I gotten into? But, it gave me, kind of a new perspective, I guess, and kind of sparked some new ideas. And for a while I've been putting off like hiring and stuff, because I want to make it like very professional, like where we have contracts and all of this stuff, and it is very overwhelming. So I've really been working hard on creating like employee manuals, so that when people come in here, it just doesn't feel like you're walking into a mess, that you actually have some good guidance and stuff. And that has been really, really hard. But I feel like I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, we need to like get this moving. But that's a part of my little thing here. So I know we had a really good conversation. So thank you guys for all of your input. Then go get happy. Oh my gosh. You didn't have to add that quote. You made me cry. I know, that was a good quote. But y'all, Will Smith has a YouTube channel. Y'all should subscribe to it, because he always puts really motivational content up. He's one of my favorite like actors. Not only actors, but he's just very wise. Like the stuff he has to say is just like really powerful. Anyways, so we talked about that. Now let's actually talk about, so we talked about our feelings and how we kind of feel about our business, right? So let's talk about, now that we all kind of realize business is not easy. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It's not really easy. It's not. But what can we do, or how, like, can we level up and take everything to the next level? So that's what we're going to kind of talk about. So let's start off at the very beginning. So I know some of you said you're launching or you're getting ready to launch, but one thing you should really think about in the beginning is nailing your niche down. And I know it's like, okay, but just figuring out like where you kind of what you love to do, and that could be, with candles or whatever. But there's different niches within candles. There's people who love luxury. There's people who love, I don't know, fantasy stuff. There's people who love, I don't know. I'm trying to think of different niches, sparkly things. So whatever love, like try to make a niche out of it. So don't just make candles and say, I make candles. Like, okay, well, what else can you do? Like, what's so special about your candles? Like, to think about it, no one can smell them through the screen. So if they're not captivated through the screen, what's going to make them buy it? So thinking of some sort of niche around that. Do you love, a lot of my students do spiritual. So are you a spiritual person? Do you love, do you want to make spiritual candles or, anything like that. So once you really nail that down, that is going to help you 1000%, because when I first started in 2015, I didn't really have a niche. I knew I wanted to be different, so that's why I had those labels. I was like, well, everybody makes square labels, so why don't I make these kind of funny shaped labels? I wish I would have thrown up a picture, but maybe if you go back on my Instagram, you might be able to see like what I used to do. But I was like, that was kind of my strategy, I guess, was like, let me make a non-square label. I mean, that was okay, but it really wasn't a niche, So in 2018, I kind of really went more, I just like rebranded everything, honestly. I went more with, okay, let me make, what do I like? So I know that I'm kind of a quirky person. I know that I like things that are a little bit odd. I like novelty things. So that's why I went with dessert candles. So it's a lot more niche, but then I can reach people who are really into that. So don't feel like you're excluding people with your niche. Like maybe you love, I don't know, what's really popular, I guess, cottage core or something like that. You're probably going to be excluding people, a lot more people, but then you're going to be highly targeted. So don't feel like you have to serve everybody. I think that's where your first misstep would be, because now you're kind of drowning in the sea of everybody else who is trying to serve everybody. So that's just kind of my advice. Just kind of find your little corner in the candle industry that you think that you can, stand out in, and then just go from there. So I think that will help a lot when you're first starting. Let's see. Ooh, someone said Euphoric Ambience Candle Co. is about daydreaming and mental health positivity. Like taking a vacation through the imagination. See, that's really cool. So I think that is what, would be your niche. And I think that's really cool. So you're not just making a candle with a label on it. There you go. So think about that if you are, even if you aren't just starting, you can always change it up. So like I changed mine up and I completely, I know some of you probably know, but like when I had my son, so when I first started my candle business, I didn't have any kids yet. I was just kind of, I think I was still working the weekdays. So I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time because I was only working weekends. So I had Monday through Friday. I wasn't working at that time, just I was working weekends. And then I didn't have my son yet. So I had a lot of time to kind of just, do stuff. And I like just doing stuff like I like staying active and just, I don't know, I'm always doing something. But I just took a lot of time to kind of like research and learn about business. And then when I had my son, it was absolutely overwhelming. I could not do business and then learn how to, manage kids. So I took like 2 years off. But don't be afraid to take time off too. So I took like 2 years off. And then when I came back is when I had so much time to research that I was like, okay, what I was doing before was not cool. So let me just change everything up. And then that's why I have this where This note here, I said, if it's not working, change it up. So don't be afraid to like pivot. Don't feel like you have to be stuck within a certain thing just because that's what you started doing. If it's not working, then just change it up. So for me, I noticed that even though I was doing kind of good with Amazon, but at the time Amazon was brand spanking new, so there wasn't much competition. Well, Amazon Handmade. I was the one of the first shops to get on Amazon Handmade, and it was really easy, honestly, for me to make many sales. So with my previous candle design, I was making like hundreds of sales on Amazon, but that's because there wasn't much competition in, I would say it was like late 2015. Um, yeah, I think so. So I was doing really well on Amazon, not so much on Etsy. Not really so much on social media. So honestly, a lot of it was Amazon with my previous kind of candle line. So when I came back, I was like, okay, I think I need to change it up because I don't really have like an audience or anything. Um, Etsy wasn't really doing much for me, so I just decided to kind of do more research, and that's when I figured out like, oh, you need to create a niche. You need to actually like narrow it down. So that's when I decided on dessert candles. Um, yeah. So I love how you guys are all like kind of putting your niches down and kind of your brand story. So that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, so don't be afraid to just like totally scrap your first idea and change it. I feel like the first year of business is really just a learning curve. And I think so many people are expecting, especially because back then I did not have TikTok. There was no TikTok. There was probably like Musically, but I did not get on Musically because I was like too old for that at the time. But definitely there was no TikTok. There was Instagram and YouTube, but I really didn't feel intimidated with social media back then, like how it can feel now. So back then it seemed very, a little bit less about just going viral. So social media, especially for small business, just felt like small businesses making things. It didn't really, I feel like TikTok now kind of, a lot of it is about going viral. Like when you log on, all you see is people just going viral, right? But that wasn't the case back when I was, 2016-ish or whatever. So I wasn't really intimidated by social media or anything. I didn't have the mindset, I guess, that I was supposed to be going viral. That wasn't a mindset that came to me back then. So I think now, like a lot of people's mindset is like, oh, I'll just start my business and then just keep posting TikToks till it goes viral. I feel like TikTok's almost like a slot machine because there really isn't a rhyme or reason how things just go viral, because you can post something very similar to somebody else, but then theirs is viral. I don't know, that's just me, I feel like. But I feel like now it does seem like the people that I talk to and that comment or who express kind of frustration, they say, well, I'm posting TikToks, I don't know how to post TikToks, or it's not going viral. Or sometimes you hear those sounds on TikTok, you know how you can do the sounds. And it was like, I posted this thing and I didn't make any sales. It's like some kind of, almost like people are so frustrated that their TikTok isn't working. But, honestly, the first year of business, I wouldn't even expect to make your money back, honestly, or to make profit, because it really is just kind of like a time to learn how to do business. So if you are not going viral or whatever, don't worry about it, I feel like, with building a business, you really are in it for the long haul. And sometimes it may take years for something to actually catch people's eye, to be honest. But if you love doing it, then just, keep on doing it. TikTok is amazing, but I saw this beautiful, okay. TikTok is amazing. I get on there every day, and I love seeing TikTok, but I feel like nowadays it is instilling kind of like this not false, because that is some people's reality. The people on your For You page, like that's their real life. So it's definitely not false, but the way the algorithm is, it's just showing you the most popular stuff, right? Whereas, well, the way Instagram used to be is you could just go through a hashtag and then you could just scroll, I don't know what the scroll through people's, feeds or hashtags, and it wasn't just the most popular stuff. It wasn't just, it was whoever was posting under that hashtag. So it wasn't always just people going viral. But on TikTok, the For You page is literally like pretty much everyone on there is like viral, or sometimes it does throw some stuff at you that's not. But I don't know, for the most part, that's what I get from it. So I don't know if, everyone's experience might be a little different. But I just want to tell you, don't fret if that is not what's going on for you. Don't think that you need to be making hundreds of sales per week or, selling out every launch. I feel like it is kind of a work in progress. But that's all I'm saying. Oh, it's all about reels now. And yeah, to be honest, I don't really, do I post a lot? I don't know. I don't think I post a lot on Instagram anymore. I do like TikTok though. I'll post there, but I don't know. I've told you guys before, but one of my goals is to just build a business where social media isn't my main way of getting traffic. And I know that sounds very strange because you're like, okay, how else are you supposed to get traffic? But building organic audience, and yeah, that is through social media, but sometimes it does take a lot of legwork in the beginning, but once you find your audience, then it doesn't feel like as much pressure to constantly just be pumping out content on all these certain platforms. And also with the storefront, that is a lot of word of mouth. So in my community, people have already came to shop, even though I'm not open. And I've had people say, we're so excited, for you to open. So hopefully that does lead to, some sales within the community and stuff that could be nice, and some word of mouth kind of marketing. But yeah, I just want to be able to kind of post what I like to post without having to feel pressure of social media. I have 4 platforms. That can be overwhelming. I had to take a break to deal with life outside. I know it's so overwhelming, and I had a little thought process about business and how different it is now compared to when our parents, I'm 31, so I kind of lived through the 90s era, and back then there was no social media. So when you had a business, obviously it was most likely a brick and mortar business because internet wasn't that big of a deal yet. When you had a business, you went to work, and let's say you work at a bakery or whatever, and then maybe your phone rings during the day while you're there, and then you had business hours, right? So after 7, people probably weren't contacting you anymore, and you probably weren't worried about turning on cameras or getting people here and there, or answering DMs at 9 p.m. So it's very stressful now. And yeah, it was a lot more of a risk, back then to have a business because it did cost a lot more, to start your business. But I feel like now, even though financially it is a lot more feasible for people to start a business, it is a lot more stressful because you feel the stress now of social media. Everybody's expected to be on all of these platforms, and that is kind of a newish phenomenon, right? I know we're kind of used to it, but I started thinking about that, and I was like, back then, I'm sure, back in the 90s, there was still a lot of stress involved with finances and still getting customers. And of course, back then they would film their little commercials and stuff to air on, public networks or whatever, or put ads in the newspaper. So they still had to focus on marketing in some sort, but it didn't involve really having to be on personality wise all the time and having to film and blah blah blah. So I had to kind of put that in perspective, and I hope for myself that one day I don't really have to rely on posting everywhere on social media. One of my favorite content creators, now she works very hard and I'm a patron of hers, but she literally she never posts to Instagram, she hardly ever posts to YouTube. But she does a lot of work on Patreon, but she posts once a month. She does one, Christine McConnell, if any of you are patrons of hers. I know she has a lot of patrons. because she's just so talented, people are willing to pay to see her art that she creates. But she posts one video a month on Patreon, and she doesn't really post on any other social media. But I'm like, wow. And she makes a full-time living. So it is possible to get to the point where, like, okay, you're going to post, what you want to post. Your audience is going to follow you because obviously, I followed her to Patreon or whatever. So I don't know. She used to post a lot more before Patreon, Patreon. But yeah, I do think it is really stressful, and especially with a handmade business, because you're having to make all these products and then turn around and then make all this content. That's really hard. Plus, turn around and learn how to run a business. That's very hard. Let's see. Word of mouth. I'm reading comments now. 24/7, like no DMs and stuff like that. So I actually used to answer DMs very quickly, but then I realized that, like, Instagram makes you feel like you have to be on the whole time. And this is kind of after I thought about, like, business owners did not used to have to, like, answer customer calls past business hours. Like, you would look and see their business hours, and then you would be like, oh, I'll just call them back tomorrow, or, I'll leave a message and they'll call me back tomorrow. But I remember one time, this is what got me. One time someone DM'd me like 3 times within like a 24-hour period, and like they were DMing me, and the last one was like, hello, question mark, hello, question mark. And it's like, dude, I'm not on the whole time. Like, I don't want to be on my phone all day. So now, like, I don't really answer DMs. Like, if you have something really important, or if you say something, really important, then okay, then I'll answer. But for the most part, I don't really answer DMs that much. Like, if it's super important, most people email me. Email is a lot easier to organize, so I can like flag things. I can say, okay, I'm gonna get back to this, do this, and kind of organize it. But DM is very hard to organize, and I don't just want to scroll through DMs. So honestly, if it's very important business stuff, then people just typically email you. But yeah, I don't want to be on my phone all day. But yeah, so what were we talking about, honestly? Okay, so we were talking about, at first we were talking about if something's not working, to just change it up. And then we went into some other topics. But oh yeah, so if you're starting a business, if you want to eventually level up over the years, please do not start doing copyright stuff. So I think a lot of people, I talk about this a lot, but some people are not aware of like what's copyright. So if you're selling stuff, even if it's selling like hotcakes, I know people were selling Among Us when Among Us was very popular, and I think a lot of people got popped for that because the creators did not like the fan art or whatever, which they're entitled to that because that's their, that their thing they created. Just be very careful with what you're using. And I know it can hurt a lot because when you are making something that almost becomes like your full-time business, you can get away with it for quite some time, especially on Etsy. It's very easy to get away with copyright, and sometimes you don't even know because so many people are doing copyright infringement on Etsy that you do not even know you're doing anything wrong. And then now you're making all this money, and then all of a sudden you get hit with some letter and you got to change it all up. That is devastating because now you're losing out on so much money. So just do yourself a favor in the beginning. Here are some things about copyright that you may not know, but obviously the likeness of an image. So if you're doing Disney stuff and you're doing like Cinderella t-shirts or whatever, and it has the Cinderella from Disney on there and they're selling great and they're personalized and all of that, that's copyright because that image is, Cinderella from Disney. You cannot use that. You can't use in your tags, even your tags, descriptions. You can't say, well, I don't know if is Cinderella like, because I know Disney uses some, they use some stories from, Grimm's or whatever, like Little Mermaid isn't originally a Disney thing, but whatever, let's just say you're using Disney in your hashtags or in your description. You can't do that, even if the image you're using is not a Disney thing. So even the words you use to describe the product, or if you're saying What's up? Something other people say. They'll say like Disney. Don't even say the words. Just don't. So if you're building a business and you're kind of using someone else's art, even if it's your own interpretation, be very careful about that. And that also prevents you in the long haul, like to get featured places, because what kind of editors or professionals or are going to put you on their publications if you're doing, like Disney stuff that's not licensed. I mean, you can definitely get licensed from these things and then do it that way. But if you're not licensed, don't even think about it. I know a lot of people make good money doing like Harry Potter stuff, which Harry Potter is very relaxed, or J.K. Rowling's very relaxed about fan art. So a lot of people do get away with it. But like in the long haul, if you're going to build this big business and that everything's based off of Harry Potter, and it's copyright infringement, you're not really going to get very far. You're just going to be on Etsy. And there are a lot of platforms like Amazon. So Etsy is different, but Amazon will actually crack down on you if you're using copyright things and you don't have any type of license. Like Amazon will just, shut you down. So you'll be very limited to how far you can go. So just keep that in mind too. Just be original art. If you don't know how to draw something, you can commission someone to draw it for you very easily on Fiverr. So you're not really limited. Like if you have an idea in your head, but you just can't, put it on paper, have someone else do it. So don't start your business off that way, because you'll never be able to excel or level up if you are using other people's art, or if you're just like straight up copying someone. You're never going to get far. It may work for a little bit, but eventually it's just not going to work, because it's like, it's different taking inspiration, but just straight up copying what someone else is doing because they're successful is not going to get you very far either. So we talked about budget and stuff. So someone asked me about budgeting and keeping track of finances. This is a big one. So I know a lot of people might, go kind of crazy with buying all of the materials, fragrance oils. I used to buy a lot of fragrance oils. I have a lot and I don't use them all. So just be very cautious of your budget, and definitely with packaging. I know like packaging is another thing people like to go crazy on, with ribbons and I don't know, all these little knickknacks in the box. But just be cautious of how much you're spending on everything. Write down every little bit of money that you're spending so that you can have a really good idea of what all you're putting into this business. And you have to have a plan. So if you're going to put money into something, have a plan of how you're going to make that money back. So if you're going to do very luxurious packaging, that's amazing, and you can definitely do that, but you have to have a plan of how you're going to market that thing and get your money back. So if you are doing luxurious packaging but your pictures aren't that great, then you're not going to probably get a whole bunch of sales, even though your packaging and your product's very great. So you really have to kind of make a plan of how you're going to utilize that thing or that investment so that you can make your money back. Let's see. Oh, Fiverr is not the same? Really? I haven't used Fiverr in quite a bit. I'm reading comments. I haven't used, I think I still use Fiverr for like small things like photo editing. Photo editing is kind of easy, but I really don't like it. So I just pay someone to do it, and it's a very simple task. So it's not like, anything crazy. But I haven't used it for like a big project in a while. And there's also, I think Upwork is more for it, like projects. So there's also Upwork, but I think that's more for like if you're hiring someone for a project. I've never used Upwork before, so I'm not too sure. Oh, photography question. Let me go back and see what you said about photography. Oh, what happened to the $5 Fiverr? I think Fiverr, their name started out because everything was $5, and then everything was kind of simple on there. But then as the platform grew and like the project started growing, then people started expanding on like, the price ranges, because now you can get crazy things done on Fiverr. You can get whole branding packages and stuff like that. So obviously the prices are going to go up. But I think initially everything was $5 on there. And I'll have to go back. I'm not sure about your particular question on photography. You may have to copy and paste it because I may have missed it. Sorry. Well, let's see. Okay, so budget. So definitely budget and keep track of finances. So I like to use CraftyBase for inventory. It's just amazing, you guys. CraftyBase really automated a lot. I used to use a spreadsheet, but after using CraftyBase, I think I've been with them for a couple of years, but I think it's just made my business so much smoother. So definitely look into that. And then someone said, can you create good images without having a expensive camera? Yes, I think, well, in my class, I definitely showed in the photography how you can create images from your phone or from a nice camera. Now with your phone, you're definitely going to need to get lighting, so you can take the pictures outside when lighting is nice, or you can get some type of lighting box. So there's a lighting box that I just purchased that I would highly recommend, and it's the newer photography box. So having some good lighting is going to help a lot with phone pictures. And obviously a better phone might, most phones nowadays have really good cameras on them, but an iPhone, you can take great pictures with an iPhone. You don't need an expensive camera at all, so you can definitely use a phone. Now I like to use software called, a lot of people use Lightroom. I think I've tried to use it, but I don't know, maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance. But my software is very I don't know, like old school. I use something called iPicky.com, and you can really get in there with a brush and everything, and it's free because I don't want to have to pay Adobe for anything. So I use something called iPicky, and let me write it in the chat. I'll copy and paste it in the chat for you guys. And if you're listening, it's called iPicky, iPicky.com. And yeah, this is what I use. I don't know. And I feel like PicMonkey.com has really emulated a lot of stuff that iPicky does. So I've noticed that. And I know a lot of people use Canva for certain things. Canva is good for, I don't know, posters, Instagram stuff, but for photo editing, I like using iPicky because, like I said, you can get in there with a brush and actually detail the background, and then kind of brush in stuff that you want to stand out, because sometimes you don't want the whole candle to have exposure, but maybe you want a certain bit to kind of pop out a little more. I don't know, that's what I use. But I demonstrated in that video, in my class, on how you can use iPicky with a phone or with a camera, and then I put it side by side, and you could really couldn't tell, but that's what I use. Let's see, I have an Android. Everyone says using a phone. Okay, let me see. Let's see, everyone always says use an iPhone, but Android is good too. Android has a lot of good phones. The reason I like iPhone is just because it connects with everything. So if you have an iPad, a Mac, and it just really all works together with the headphones and everything. That's why I use the iPhone. But Androids, there's really good cameras on there, probably even better than some iPhones. So just Androids can be, take really good pictures. I just like the iPhone just for convenience of using it with other devices. So you can definitely take good pictures with the phone. So don't think that you can't. You just have to really learn some kind of editing techniques, and then kind of just, lighting and stuff is will help you a lot. Okay, so before I got that question, I was talking about finances. So I was talking about like crafty base, inventory tracking. So when you go to do your taxes, they're going to ask you for like beginning and ending inventory. That really surprised me the first time I did my taxes. So if you have that in mind when you first start, then you'll kind of, it won't be as hard when you get to that point. So keeping track of inventory is really important. If you're not looking to invest in Crafty Base yet, because it is a monthly fee, there are many people who make really good spreadsheets. You will just have to make sure to keep track manually with a spreadsheet. But Janet LeBlanc, Paper and Spark, I used her spreadsheet quite a bit, and it's really, really good and detailed, and it has everything you need to like file your taxes, to get your sales tax numbers. But like I said, it's just all manual. So there are some pretty good spreadsheets out there. Don't be afraid of setting bigger goals. So again, we talked about how scary it can be, like when you're trying to do something and other people around you are judging or like, oh, I don't think you can do that. But don't be afraid to set some bigger goals for yourself. Like honestly, if I used to never think that I would be able to get a storefront at all. I thought, wow, that's unattainable, but that'd be kind of cool. But once I kind of opened myself up to the actual idea of it, like when I was thinking about getting the storefront, when I was thinking about the money and like buying all the things that go in it and all the certificates and inspections, it's like, wow, that's really cool, but that won't be me because that's just a lot. But don't be afraid of setting bigger goals, because it's definitely something that, I mean, if you put your mind to it, then why not? Now, of course, money has to come from somewhere. So obviously, like I said, I have a very future oriented mind. So I can think of like a 5-year plan in my head. So I'll be like, well, if I do this, then that will allow me to do this. Then I can do this. Then I'll have the money to do this. And so sometimes the plan is like, a 3-year plan, but even though like it's a long-term plan, eventually you can get there. So when I was thinking about my candle business, the reason why I only worked the weekends, now this was my business plan. When I thought of it, I was working Monday through Friday at my other office job, and I just did not have time to start my business. So when I quit, I was like, well, if I get a weekend job, then that will allow me Monday through Friday to work on my business. So I have a lot more time, and I will get to my goals a lot faster because then I'll have more time. And then from there, I can, work on my business and hopefully make something of it. And then from there, I can go full time. And then from there, I can do this, So sometimes don't be afraid of setting bigger goals, because, even though it's like a 5-year plan, I mean, you just got to work towards it. It doesn't have to be some overnight thing. So I have plans in my head for things that I'm going to do 2 years from now, because right now, do I have the money to do it? No, but I have a plan. So with the storefront, that allows me to make more content and learn how to operate a storefront. And, I can make more content about how to operate a storefront, because obviously I'm doing it right now. So now I know about inspections. I know about, what the fire marshal is going to ask you. I know where to get furniture in China. I know POS system, so that will allow me to hopefully kind of monetize that and be like, okay, if you want to learn how to open a storefront, this is what I learned. And then I can use that money for future goals. So that's kind of like my mindset. So when I was getting the storefront, it just wasn't about selling more candles. I was like, oh, these are all the things I can do. I can hold classes here. I can, we can do business classes in person, or we can do, update Candle Biz Academy with, the room, and I can, make a spot in my community and get people to know the company more. And hopefully it makes me more legit when it comes to wholesale. So now when I get bigger wholesale clients, I can show them, oh, this is my storefront. So I don't know, but don't be afraid of setting bigger goals, but it just might take you a long time to get there. So it's definitely not an overnight thing. Like, I'm 31. Some people might think that old, but that is not very old. And I have decades ahead of me. So I'm really not in a super rush. 2 years is a blip in time for, the rest of my life. So it may seem like a long time, but don't be afraid of setting goals and just, keep on working until you start kind of knocking and chipping things down little by little, because it does take time. And of course, you have to figure everything out and stumble along the way. So that's kind of, leveling up. So you don't have to just do everything within the span of a year. You can definitely put things on the back burner until you're ready to get to that point. Adobe and Mac are not friends. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that. Well, I've never wanted to pay for Adobe. It's just very expensive. So I'm just like, I'm going to figure out other ways to kind of make this work. Now, obviously, if you are really heavily into Photoshop, I think there's even like a Photoshop dupe out there that someone said was like a mirror copy of Photoshop that was free. It just had like ads on the side. I don't know the name of it, but obviously, if you're very heavily into Photoshop and that's, something you do very professionally, then you might need that. But for me, if I'm just editing like the white on the background, I don't need Photoshop. Okay. So that led into my next one, slow and steady. Don't feel like you have to do everything so quickly just to like keep up with everybody else. Like, honestly, set huge goals for yourself, but just be realistic that it might take 2-3 years to even get there. So if you haven't grown a whole bunch in 1 year, don't even worry about it. Just keep on going, and also invest in programs to help you. And I have learned this. Okay, so for me, I haven't really found a program about opening a storefront. I tried, I looked, I was willing to pay for some type of program. I haven't found one. I'm sure there's one out there somewhere, but I like investing in programs. For instance, I invested in one to help me with employees so that I know what kind of paperwork, what kind of contracts, what to do to like be legit. But like as far as opening a storefront, I kind of just been winging it because I have not found one about that. So, but one awesome Instagram follower did tell me that the SBA has counselors, like business counselors, and I looked it up, and some can be very low expensive or even free. So the Small Business Association, if you are having problems like figuring out what to do, where to go next, you can definitely look there and then see who can help you like open a small business, because obviously small businesses kind of power the economy. Of course, bigger businesses do too, but majority of the businesses like in my town are small businesses. Like, there's no chains out here where I'm at, or I'm in a small kind of town, but they're all small businesses. And this is what keeps our town running, because obviously if people need to go to the pharmacy, there's one in town. And obviously when people buy little knickknacks from the pharmacy, those taxes go back to the city. So obviously the city is going to be very invested in making sure small businesses keep running. I know my city in particular is doing a lot of cool things as far as getting roads fixed, making everything, a little bit nicer for the residents, and also bringing in, other businesses and stuff so that we can, grow. But yeah, anyways, so the cities are going to be very invested in making sure you do well. But Small Business Association can help you do that. And thank you to that Instagram follower for that suggestion, because as soon as they said that, I went on the website and I was looking at what I could do to help me, because I need to reach out to somebody that already knows what they're doing, right? So I did sign up for a conference that is going to be like 2 weeks from now, and it's like an 8-hour event, and it's basically for women. It's in Dallas somewhere, but it's like women, women-owned businesses helping you kind of go to the next level, but people who've already done it, and they can tell you like, okay, this is, what you can do to take your brick and mortar here, or here are some tips that worked for me. So always look for other people who've already done it and then seek advice or pay, to see, okay, so what can I do for my business? Because I always don't know what I'm doing with this storefront. So what do you know? So I'm all about investing. And I know sometimes it can be very hard to pick out like who's legit on here, because I feel like there are a lot of people who have courses who don't really have proof that they've done what they're trying to teach, so it's just people like make $10,000 this month or whatever. So you have to be very cautious of who you are giving your money to. But once you kind of vet the person and, okay, like she's actually going to help me, she's done the thing. I always look for, have they done the thing they're talking about? Do they have proof that they've done the thing? Then okay. Because sometimes it's very hard to find proof, like a lot of coaches or something. They're just like, coaches? I'm like, what is that? I don't know. But there are some very great online course creators who have helped me a ton investing in their programs too. But don't be afraid to invest, to learn more about wherever you're trying to go, because sometimes, like, if you're going to learn the hard way, you can make some really costly mistakes. If you don't know how to hire people, like, in my hiring class, the class I'm taking about employees, one girl in particular said that she knew somebody and they hired, at a bakery, something like this. And she didn't sign a no compete contract or like an NDA. And they took her idea and then took it to a competitor. And I had never, like, it makes sense, but maybe I'm too trusting or something, because I wouldn't have thought to do that myself unless they told me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I wouldn't have, like, if I would have hired a whole bunch of people and not had them sign anything, that could potentially happen to you, and that could be very costly, and then you have no legal, document that they signed. So legally they can do it, but ethically it's wrong, obviously. So having things like that can save you a ton of money and stress, and just knowing how to do something the proper way. If I wouldn't have taken that class, I would have not known. So that's awful. That really sucks that somebody did that, but it sucks to learn the hard way. That's why it's nice to kind of have someone guide you if you can find that person. So always continuing to learn. That's another thing too. Don't be afraid of learning analytics. I know it is so boring, but especially when it comes to how your products are doing, you can really get insight on what's not doing well, what's doing well. So sometimes one product can be doing well, and then you kind of get caught up in the creation process. And now you're making all of these products and not focusing on the one that's doing well. So for instance, I think I started doing bath bombs, and I love bath bombs. They were pretty, they were really cool. They were just made of great quality products. But when I looked at the analytics, not many people were buying bath bombs, and the profit margin between a bath bomb and a candle was just like, candles had astronomical profit margin compared to a bath bomb, which the ingredients that I was using were very pricey. So maybe if I would have experimented with different ingredients, I could have kind of gotten a better profit margin. But at the time, I wasn't really invested much in bath bombs because I'm a candle maker. So I thought initially that bath bombs would be a good addition to my product line to give people more options. But in the end, it was actually costing me more in time and without very much payoff. So I just discontinued them. Maybe I'll come back to them when I have more help around here. But for the moment, no bath bombs until, we nail the candle thing down. So just think about that and really study your numbers, your profits, what's selling, what people like. Obviously, if the customers are buying your bath bombs, and obviously that's, you go with that. But if they're not really buying them, then stick to what they are buying, and then just nail that down. Keep selling that. Don't feel like you have to have a million product options. Don't feel like you have to have, sometimes people get a little crazy with options because they think options are really good, but options aren't the best for conversion. So if you are giving them so many options, like if they can pick out the glass, the scent, the color, the label, that's too many options, and then customers will get overwhelmed and probably won't buy. So it's best to kind of keep it minimum. So just like as many clicks as possible. So working on that, you don't want them to have to do a ton of clicks before they get to the buy. You know what I mean? Um, so narrow the options down, because you think that customers want options, but just make it easy and just say, this is my candle, it comes in one size, there you go. So I had actually here also listen to the customers. That's a big one. So I have had customer feedback on some things I should offer, so that's definitely on my list, but I just can't get to it now. So sometimes customers will tell you what they want, and they'll be like, do you have this? And I'm like, oh, I don't. So write that down and just, listen to the customer on that. So outsource. This is a big one, and this is a big one for leveling up. And this is kind of where I'm at right now, and it can be very scary. So I heard this quote from somebody else that I follow, but they said, scared money don't make money. And it's very true. And I know, like, especially when you have a family and stuff like that, like spending money and investing money on stuff can be very scary, because you have people depending on you, and you're like, oh gosh, if I spend money on this thing, what if, everything goes wrong? But be very calculated about the money that you are spending, and have a plan, like I said, of how you're going to bring that back. And especially with outsourcing, that is the hardest thing to do, at least for me, because paying someone, having them on payroll, is actually a pretty big deal. So you're going to have to pay payroll taxes. Payroll taxes include unemployment tax, I don't know, all the taxes. There's so many taxes. So you're going to have them on payroll, report the payroll taxes, to your state. And there's also other things you're going to have in place and think about when you're hiring somebody. You got to make sure your business is up to code, and make sure when you hire someone that you're kind of zoned for having an employee there. I know there was one girl in particular, she said that she had to kind of get a permit or something because she was renting out of her house to have employees there, because it was an apartment or something. So make sure that you're able to have employees there. You're not breaking any laws. When you're having employees, it's just a big deal to hire people, right? And it can be very costly. So when you're hiring someone, you have to really go through the process and just make sure that person is going to benefit your business. Now, you're probably like, okay, so I've had this happen. So when I hired some VAs, I had no idea. I had no idea how to work, like give someone else work. Like I had no idea of how a workflow would work out, and how to structure like SOPs and manuals and all of that. I was just like, okay, you're here. I'd give them tasks like every once in a while, but then they would run out of things to do. And then I'd be like, well, but I was still busy. So I was still on the back end doing all of these computer tasks, and then the VA was waiting for their task, but I had no idea on how to like train them to do stuff. I know it sounds kind of silly, but when you're, doing, I don't know what I was doing in particular, like inventory or something, that one was kind of easy to teach. But there were so many other things on the back end that I was doing that I just didn't know how to translate to another person, if that makes sense. So when you're hiring someone, you have to kind of prepare in advance. But in the end, it does help to have, help around you, because like right now for me, I'm just kind of like almost like I'm treading water almost, because I'm like, okay, so much stuff to do. I'm a production person, I'm working a camera, I'm editing, but yet I'm also, have wholesale orders. I'm still making candles, customers, plus business stuff too. So now I gotta still be in the business mindset as well. Like, how am I gonna make this company keep going? And it's just a lot, you guys. Like, you are not going to level up your business and get to, a 7-figure business if you are not hiring people. Like, you possibly could if you have this amazing digital product where you can just make it once and then people buy it. You can definitely do that. There's people who make like planners downloadable planners or whatever and have, very successful business, probably running it by themselves. But for the most part, especially for a handmade business, especially when a lot of my job is online too, you're going to need help. But you don't want to hire the wrong help and then spend a ton of money, time training. Training is very time intensive too, because you got to train them on everything. And sometimes you don't have time to train the person. So then they're just like twiddling around like the VAs, and they're waiting for me. But then I'm so busy, I don't have time to train them. So when you create something in advance, like a training manual that, 10 people can go through at once, that's going to save you a ton of time. So hiring people and outsourcing can be scary, and you might fumble around the first few people you hire because you have no idea what the heck you're doing. But honestly, once you learn, and then you can be like, okay, you can reflect back and be like, okay, well, what did I not do? I didn't have a good training manual. I didn't, do this and that and that. So now I have like this really nice manual that I'm proud of. So we're going to see how it all goes. I'm going to read the comments. Alrighty. So outsourcing is probably going to unlock a whole bunch for you. And when you're leveling up and you're ready to hire that first person, you're going to realize oh my gosh, once they take over something, you're going to be like, wow, that frees up a lot of time. And obviously, as the business owner, you don't really want to be working on tasks that other people can do. You want to keep your mind, I guess, in the realm of what am I going to do next to grow the business? So if you're constantly working on sending emails, how are you going to keep growing your business to reach those big goals that you set in your head? So I know sometimes especially, you think, oh, only I can do this thing. But if you kind of break it down step by step for someone. So here's what I do. So when I was creating my manuals, what I did was I was doing the thing that I was trying to teach. So I'd be like, okay, how, and it was very simple. So my manual even tells you, what did I have on there? How to respond to a wholesale order. So I just break it down I'm clicking through, and I'll write down okay, click here, then click here, then, click here. It even tells you where to click next. And then I just, speak what I'm doing, and then I transcribe it. So I transcribe whatever I'm speaking, and then I kind of highlight, oh, okay, this is, what I was talking about. And then I'll just make the step-by-step little manual that I'm doing. So it's kind of a process, but you want someone to be, because I looked at it from, okay, when I have done jobs, whenever they train me to do something, it was a first grader could, if you read it, you could be like, okay, this is a first grader could do this. But that's for a reason, because you want to be as detailed as possible, that, you can literally just look at that manual and there's no guesswork, right? So it tells you where to click next. It tells you exactly what to say, or if, or do you need help doing this, then refer to this resource or whatever. So that will help a lot, and it will make things so much easier. And I learned the hard way when I had the VAs. So now I know, oh, that was it. I just didn't, I just wasn't as clear as I could have been. All right. So we talked about outsourcing. Let's see, leveling up. All right. So let's still get on the topic of money. Now, I know it can cost. So to do all the things, because obviously it costs money. So when you are working on your business, you really have to be a little bit creative on how are you going to make the money, or what are you going to do while you're still working on your business. So for instance, do you need to, do some other things on the side to hopefully bring in income for that thing you're trying to fund? I know sometimes you can get a loan or something, but I try to, stay away from that, just because that can be a little stressful. So there's so many ways to make, other income online, but you got to get a little creative about it. So, posting on YouTube. Actually, YouTube is not really a big income for me anymore. So I don't really make that much money off of YouTube, honestly. But let's say, offering classes, um, that can help you a lot. So if you're very knowledgeable in cross stitching, can you offer some type of cross stitching, class while you are working on your cross stitch business or something like that? There's one creator I follow, and she's really talented at making these like decorative dessert candles. I think her Instagram is called like Slice of Candle or something. But she offers classes, and I think she also has a storefront as well. But that's one way you can kind of make money. So a lot of artists and stuff, they'll do other things besides that one, you know, besides selling their art. Maybe they'll, teach classes and stuff like that too. So think about that. So you can do a whole bunch of other things. Do you do DoorDash, to get some extra money? Let's say you need to buy a new camera. How are you going to fund that? So, charge it on the card or whatever. But you can do other little things. I know sometimes it may not be the most ideal. Like maybe you don't want to do DoorDash. I mean, I delivered groceries when grocery delivery kind of started. I think this was in 2016 or whatever. When it was kind of taking off, I delivered groceries, and I just remember the app was awful, and it was so embarrassing because I'd keep having to text the customer. The app wasn't very good at telling you, what the customer wanted to substitute. So you had to always text them. It was just so annoying because, like, what's the point of grocery delivery if you have to keep texting the customer? But I did that for a while too. And I remember I was like a vulture on that app. Like I would sit there and then I would just wait for like an order to come in, and I would just like, and I remember delivering groceries to one address, and they also were a person on the app, and they were like, oh, you keep taking all the deliveries. But I did that for a while, and it was pretty good money, I guess, but it was very stressful having to like work with that app and all of that. But sometimes it's stuff that you really don't want to do. But I mean, if you want to really fund the business, if you have a dream, sometimes you just, gotta bite the bullet. I remember I was contemplating doing the scooter pickups, but it was kind of a dangerous idea because it was like a late at night kind of thing. But those scooters that everyone was riding, like they pay good money to pick those scooters up and charge them. So that's how those scooters like get picked up. So I don't know if those scooters still exist in the world. I haven't seen any in a while. Those like Bird scooter and Lime scooter. So what you would do is you would download the app, and I never did it just because downtown Dallas is just kind of sketchy at night. So basically you just pick up the scooters, and then even for certain scooters that were like harder to reach, I guess they would pay you more money. I don't know. And then you would take them to your house, charge them, and then drop them back off. And I was like, oh my God, I can make so much money, but I just never did it. So you gotta get creative sometimes. Instacart is how I make extra income. See? And I bet Instacart is just so much better. I mean, I haven't done grocery delivery in a while, but honestly, like if all of this crumbled down overnight and I no longer had whining with candles or any of this, that's what I would do. I would just go and do grocery delivery, DoorDash, and go from there. Oh my gosh, you guys, that reminds me. There is this guy, and let me look it up on my phone. I watched his YouTube video, and he lives in the Bahamas, and it's kind of a long video, but trust me, you will be amazed. And I think his name is Christian G. Anderson. Let me look on my phone. But basically, Christian, oh my gosh, I wish I knew his name. But basically, he lives in the Bahamas, and he filmed for like 7-8 months. I gotta find his name, guys. From I think it was like called from a penny to make $60,000 or something like that. If you guys know him, please put it in there because I just watched his video last week. Oh, I wish I knew. But he lives in the Bahamas, and I swear his name is Christian. But pretty much he documented himself, and he's done this twice so far. And it's not a lie because he always shows you screenshots. He shows you receipts the whole time. but he went to the grocery store in the Bahamas, picked up a penny, and then from there he just took that penny, and at the end he made like $67,000. But with the penny, he like traded it for like candy, which he traded for something else, and like he started just selling 4 pieces of candy, and then that turned into selling water bottles. And I think he started like a car wash little thing with a bucket and some free water. Like he really like took a penny, you guys. So if this all crumbles down, there's so many ways online for you to make money. You just have to get a little bit creative. I'm able to make my own schedule, and it helps that my son is in school. So while he's in school, those are your work hours. That's awesome. So that's a great time also to do work when like the kids are in school or something like that. So that's really awesome. Yeah, like if this all crumbled down, like I absolutely know how I would make money again. I would just do Instacart. And I always said, I'm a killer. I would be a killer VA too, because I know how to do everything. Like, do you want me to edit a YouTube video? Do you want me to do your finances? Do you want me to like, organize? You want me to file your, sales taxes? Like I could do anything. So if all of this went away, I'll just be like a VA or something. I don't know. But yeah, there's tons of ways, you guys. Sometimes it's just like, don't want to do, I remember in his video, he was at the very end, he was just trying to make some extra money because at the very end, I think he was able to connect with someone like in Dubai. He had like some, person that he met online, and they like flipped a car for him, and he needed like 4,000 or 5,000 extra dollars, and he worked like 4 fast food jobs or something like that. So even if you have to get a food job or whatever, delivery, I think the owner of what's that brand everyone wears, the workout brand is called Shark something, Gymshark. I think he was making like 200,000 a year, and he was still delivering pizza, so that he could still bring in money without touching his money in the business. So he didn't want to touch the money, he wanted to reinvest it. So I think he was still delivering pizza or something like that. So if you're really invested in the vision, just reinvest the money, and eventually you'll have enough money to fund whatever idea you're trying to fund. But it may be some hard work, but eventually you'll get to that point. That's what I wanted to ask. Do you get the same feeling as someone that's not happy at a 9 to 5? Oh, yes, I do go through that. So I'm very passionate about, running my business. I love seeing the visions come together and stuff, but I do sometimes want to take breaks, and I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do this. So, I do have flexibility to say I don't want to do that, but there are times where I just don't really work that much. So sometimes I'll go through points where I only work like 1 to 2 hours just because I don't feel like it anymore. I don't have the same stress like I did at a 9 to 5, where I felt very like someone was really breathing down my neck, or trying to keep up a certain standards or whatever, how I did at my office job. I don't have that kind of pressure, but there is a pressure of just being overwhelmed. So there are some times where I'm like, okay, I'm done for right now. I'm just going to, not work. And there are some times where I just feel like it's not that that I'm choosing not to work, but some days I do feel like there's something that's telling me I just can't work today. Like I just can't. I just can't. There's just too much. I can't. I don't know what that is. And then there's sometimes where I'm just like wanting to work all day. So it does definitely go through little flows, I guess. But in the end, it is rewarding because I can still choose, like if I want, take my son out somewhere for the day or whatever, I have that option. I'm like, okay, well, if I have work, let me just, rearrange everything, see what I can do, and then I'll get back to it later. And then, my husband has been very active recently also. But there are times where I just don't want to work. I really like doing other hobbies too besides candles. So I really like, you know, trying to get into other things like sewing or knitting. And sometimes I get really frustrated because I don't have time for it. So I'm like, oh, I just want to finish this thing. And I feel really fulfilled when I just like, okay, I'm not going to work. I just want to do what I want to do. But I do feel like that sometimes. Yes, but this was fun, you guys. Do you have any other questions? So for summary, leveling up your business. It takes time. It takes time. Don't feel like you're rushing or don't feel like you're failing just because you've been in business for 6 months and you've only made 3 sales or whatever. You're going to have to sit there and really think about what you can do. Keep on learning. Sometimes you're going to have to do things like to earn extra money for your business or whatever. If you have to deliver groceries or if you have to do DoorDash or pick up scooters for bird scooters or whatever, there's a lot of options, reselling things to get the money you need to fund your business. It may not be the most ideal situation, but sometimes you do have to, do other side gigs to fund your business if you don't want to like have to take out loans or whatever. Make plans, set big goals for yourself. Know that it's okay if those goals take years for you to accomplish. As long as you're consistently working towards them, then that's cool too. Don't worry about, I guess, what did I say earlier? Outsourcing. So be very aware that outsourcing is going to help you a ton, but there is, some precautions to take in making sure that you have the finances, the work available, and the person that you're hiring is the right person for the job. And then if you are, once you do find those good employees, then you will realize that, oh wow, I should have did this a long time ago. Let's see. I stopped making candles to listen to my life. Let's see. What do you think about the new rate that Etsy is doing? So with Etsy, I think a lot of people get frustrated with Etsy. And I know I do some stuff with Etsy, like we do things together, but Etsy does not pay me to say anything about Etsy. Like I am not on any contract to say anything. I can say whatever I want. And with Etsy, a lot of people, especially on TikTok, I see a lot of people saying that Etsy is, not a good platform, blah, blah, blah. But to realize that a platform is going to change and it's going to do their own thing. And you have to be very aware of your profit margins when you're starting your business. So you're going to have to pay. So whatever platform you're on, you're going to have to pay. And I think Amazon's fees are a lot higher than Etsy. I hear a lot of people talk about Etsy fees. Amazon fees are a lot higher. But with Etsy, for me, Etsy isn't like my main, I don't really drive traffic to Etsy. What I like to use Etsy for, it's really great for exposure. So I told my students, like, a lot of editors go on Etsy, and when they do their Christmas lists or top 10 gifts to give your family, where do they go? They go to Etsy. Etsy is great when you learn the search engine optimization, which I am going to do like a free Etsy class. So yeah, it's free. It's going to be on Zoom this time. So I'm going to do a class and we're going to talk about search engine optimization again. And I think I'm going to do it this month because it's September, right? So just follow me and we'll do that, because I always talk about how Etsy can be really great when you utilize the SEO. So what you don't want to do on Etsy is just throw your stuff up there and then think that people are going to buy it. You really have to work with the search engine on Etsy, and then you just kind of just let it do its thing. So I don't drive traffic to Etsy. I drive it to my website, but then Etsy is just kind of its own little thing that sits there and it makes sales if it, makes sales. Now, if Etsy is your only place you're on right now, then you need to, just make sure you're doing your SEO. And of course, you are going to drive your traffic to Etsy if that's where you're at. Because to me, a Shopify is a little more expensive because there's a lot of other apps that I do. And then you have to invest in the theme. So, and then you have to drive your own traffic. So when you have your own Shopify, you really need to have a big audience already, or you have to figure out a way to get people to your Shopify store. So you're going to have to either pay to drive traffic, or you're going to have your social media, which is your organic traffic, to Shopify, because people aren't just going to go and Google and find you. Every website in the world is indexed on Google. So they're not just going to find your Shopify store, right? So that is kind of your store where you drive your traffic. Etsy has, there are millions of followers or whatever, there are millions of shoppers, and then you can utilize the search engine and the trends and kind of target shoppers that way on Etsy to make sales. So that's when I started kind of really taking this serious, when I figured out how Etsy works. And then I think it was in 2018 when I started my business again, because I had taken 2 years off. I started with Etsy. I did not have a Shopify because that was another mistake I did the first time around. I had a Shopify, but I knew nothing about marketing. I didn't have a social media following at all. So I was just spending money on Shopify and nobody was buying there. So I nixed that, and then I just had Etsy. And then I figured out how to do Etsy search and how to, really niche down. And I was making like hundreds of sales there. Nowadays, my Etsy, actually, I was telling my students, my Etsy needs a lot of help because I don't really pay as much attention just because I'm like everywhere. But I know how to make Etsy work for me if you do the research. So to me, I don't know. Etsy is just, it's just, kind of a secondary thing. So, oh, hello. Thank you for the subscription. But I don't know. I feel like Etsy is just kind of, it's not as expensive as most people think. And you can always buy your shipping labels off of Etsy. So I don't use Etsy shipping. You can use Shippo or something else. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on there. Let's see. Yay for the Etsy class. Looking forward to the meeting details. Yes, so for the Etsy class, I'm really thinking, because now they want us to do it on Zoom, and with Zoom, there's a certain amount of people, because last time I was able to do it on YouTube Live, and there's not an amount of people that, an exponential amount of people can watch the live. But with Zoom, you can only have like 100 people in it. So we're going to see how signups go. And if more than 100 people want to, sign up, maybe I'll have a couple different classes of the same lesson. But I think learning Etsy, to me, like, you don't need a social media following. So when I was first starting on Etsy, I had no following. I did not have my YouTube channel yet, but I was still making sales. So it's not all about social media. Once you learn how to really work the online marketplace, then you can still make sales, and then you can make sales on Etsy while you're building your social media. So you're not just sitting there on Shopify waiting for sales while you're doing your thing on TikTok, you can still just use search engine optimization. So I always tell people I research what is trending or what's gonna do well on Etsy before I make it. So if I have an idea, especially when it was just Etsy, I would research if the idea was going to work before I would make it. And I used things like Marmalade or eRank, which are very great tools to help you do your research. So if I was doing a Christmas candle, sometimes the word Christmas is not the word to use. And then you could research as like a different kind of word. If it's winter, if it's like fall candle, instead of Halloween candle, is it witch candle? You know what I mean? So sometimes you say, oh, well, this is my, Halloween candle back here. But sometimes, maybe instead of making just a Halloween candle, maybe a skull candle is highly searched for on Etsy, but not enough people are making skull candles, then you have more opportunity to make a sale, So that's how I would do it back then, and you can still do it that way now. So I think so many people are kind of just not aware of like how Etsy works. But yeah. Let's see. I have both. Great advice. Thanks. I have both too. I have both. And, to me, Shopify is a lot more expensive than Etsy. And Amazon's a lot more expensive than Etsy. So I don't know. That's just my experience. I should do an Amazon class. Well, Amazon is not at like Etsy to where they do a lot of like outreach to sellers. Amazon is very much you're on your own and you better follow our rules. Amazon is like, they do not play around. They do have some resources. I do teach Amazon in my class, but Amazon doesn't ever reach out to, that I know of, to sellers or anything. I've never seen that. They do have their own little handbook or whatever. It's not as detailed as Etsy, and it is a lot more expensive. In Amazon is really good because you can get a lot of sales through their FBA. I love FBA because you can just send your stuff there, and then Amazon handles all the packing and shipping. So that's why I love Amazon, and I'm willing to pay more for that, because even though you're paying more in fees, you're saving more in time because you're not having to sit there and package orders. That saves you a lot of time, and you can do something else. So you're still making a profit, but it's not as much profit as you're gonna make on your own website, but it's still a profit, So as long as you're still making a profit, I don't see why not. But yeah, Amazon, like, you better follow their rules. They are not afraid to just like shut your stuff down. So you have to really read the Amazon handbook and making sure you're doing everything right. You've got E-Rank. Awesome. Let's see. How do you pay for do you pay for Shopify? I do have Shopify, and then I also have apps. So I have the standard Shopify. I think it's like $30 a month, but then I paid $200 for my theme. So my theme is a little bit more custom. So that was a one-time price of $200. But then if you want like email collection apps, that's going to cost you extra. What else do they have on there? So there's other apps, like certain little things. And the thing with Shopify, things that you think are necessary almost to a nice website, you have to get an app for. So I don't know. Shopify is just a lot of apps. Like one time I was trying to do like variations or something, like a whole bunch of variations. I forgot what exactly it was, but I had to download an app for something that was so simple. And Etsy had this already implemented on their site, but then on Shopify, you had to get an app for it. So I don't know. Shopify is nice because it's very professional. Like it, you can make it your own, and there's a lot more customization involved with it compared to Etsy. But to me, it does cost. You are gonna have to pay a bit for it. Alrighty, let's see. Thank you, Raw Juice Soapery, for that. I appreciate it. Thank you. So, I felt like I was going to say one more thing before I got off of here. I forgot. Yeah, so we are going to do the lesson, the Etsy lesson. That's going to come up, the Etsy class. I'm very passionate about that search engine stuff because I know it works. And I really do, believe in it. I just wish I had more time for my Etsy shop, because when I look at it right now, it's so sad, and I see so much potential for things that I know I should be doing on Etsy, but I just don't have the time. But I mean, back in the day when Etsy was my primary, I made consistent sales on there without social media. Let's see. I'm new to candle making. How do I stay focused but learn from YouTube if everyone is making candles? So you're just going to have to kind of find your own little path. So just yeah, find your own niche. And I know everyone's making candles, but I mean, that's kind of how like business works, I guess. Like, you know, especially with, clothing business, a whole bunch of people make, clothing items. There's a whole bunch of, options in almost every category. Greeting cards, like how many greeting card companies are there? So you're just going to have to find your place in the market and kind of stand out, and how to find your target audience. So, like for me, there's probably a whole bunch of people that don't like my candles because they like minimalist, you know, I don't know, lemongrass smelling candles, and my candle doesn't fit the bill. But that's okay because, they can shop with somebody else, and that's two totally different niches. But for me, there's going to be people who are interested, who are like minded in like kind of novelty items, who like, foodie scents or stuff like that. So you're just going to have to kind of find your own path, find your niche, and yeah, stay true. You don't have to. Sometimes like people really get into like copying, or I've seen those cereal candles on TikTok that kind of blew up. I've seen a lot more people do those now. So obviously it's going to be harder to stand out, when you're doing something exactly the same as somebody else. So it's okay to take inspiration, obviously, but try to put your own little spin on it. So I think that, you don't have to, it's okay to like take somebody else's idea and then put your own spin on it. That's totally different, but you don't have to copy, because then that's just a lot. So I think sometimes people will be like, oh, that person's successful, I'm going to add that to my candle line or whatever. There's so many different things you can do with candles, and I mean, not a lot of people do carved candles. You can learn that art. I would like to learn that, honestly. I've been thinking about that for quite a while, but just figure out, how you can kind of, stay true to yourself, but still make something that's a little bit different from what someone else is making. And even if you're making single pour candles, because obviously that's just a candle, single pour, everyone, has that in their line, but figure out who you can market that to. So how's the label look? Is it, very cartoony and happy-go-lucky, or is it minimal? So you can even customize the labels. That's one way to kind of stand out also, is the packaging, the labels, the whole experience. I buy your candles, love your style. Thank you so much for supporting. Yes, working on a soft launch, but I fell all over the place. That's okay. So when that happens, like if you're launching, obviously that's like your first go. It's not going to be smooth. You're going to run into things. So just analyze what you did and then try to figure out how you can make that better. So analyze what went wrong and how you can make that feel better. Make that better. And like I said, slow and steady. So I know a lot of your dreams, or a lot of people's dreams, is to go viral, but sometimes going viral is just not like the most ideal. I saw one lady talking about it, but it can be extremely stressful, especially if you're a new business. So just imagine you just started and you go viral. And I've actually heard another company talk about this. So I'm going to give her as an example because she's talked about it openly on her Instagram. So I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not telling the tea or anything, because this came from her. But if you follow Shea Bakery on Instagram, she had this happen to her where she went viral on Good Morning America, and she was not prepared to go viral. So she basically talked about how her candles, she does dessert candles also, but hers are really cool because they look like cakes and waffles and really cool. But she had this slew of people who were in line for her, who bought her candles, but she did not have the staff. So I think I've told this story before, either to you guys or to my students, I don't know, sorry if I'm repeating it, but she hired a whole bunch of people, and she said that, like training, there was no training. So I think she had like 70 something employees. So obviously, when you have that many people, you might have people that aren't really aligned with you or your goals, and so they're just there to pick up a check. So they're not going to give their all. They're not going to pay attention to product, especially when you're making dessert candles, because there's specific things that I'm not sure how her candles are, but I know in my case, like, you have to do this thing very specific for it to actually work. So she said that product quality was off and it was causing a lot of customers to be angry. And so by her going viral, she had all these employees to pay for, all of these angry customers, all of these orders that weren't getting shipped, that were taking months to ship just because of employee problems. And she had to let her employees go because she no longer had the money because the customers were getting refunds and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes going viral is not like, what it's, made up to be sometimes. So if you're not ready for that, it could definitely hurt your business, and it could definitely I was very invested in her story, and I thought that was so cool that she came on and talked about that, because it gives you like such a different perspective of what you see on TikTok, where like, oh, I went viral, look at all these orders. And especially if it's like a sticker company, stickers are kind of like, okay, there's a few things that could go wrong with stickers, but like making candles, there's many things that could go wrong if your employees are putting the wrong wicks in, or if they're not mixing everything right, or if orders are not getting done in time. Like, there's a lot that can go wrong there. So that was very cool of her to talk about that, and I think she's going to be launching, I haven't checked her page in a while, but I think she's going to be redoing everything and launching, which I'm really excited to see. So I thought that was a really cool like perspective, or thing that she did, was to talk and be really honest about that. So it gives you an idea. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of one reason I'm like, oh well, okay, when you hire employees, you got to make sure that they are aligned, or else it's just going to be a whole bunch of problems. But that is kind of what I wanted to say, you guys. So, yeah, I have another live here in a couple hours. Let's see, we have another comment here. I do a number of different crafts. Do you think it's a good idea to create a website for each craft, or is it okay to showcase all of my crafts on one website? So, if your crafts, if they're very specific to a certain niche, then I would say, okay, you put them all on one website. But again, that's customers really like things simple. So it is okay to create separate websites. So if you want to run a separate websites, that is okay to do too. So if you like doing, paper crafts and candles, I think those might be able to go on separate websites. Now, there are some calligraphy people who are very good at calligraphy, so they'll have like tote bags, candles, like their greeting cards, mugs, all on one website, but it's all under kind of the same niche, so you can tell they all kind of fit together. So that's kind of the difference there. I guess if it's cohesive. If it's cohesive, then you can put them all on the same website. But you can do separate websites. It might cost you a little bit more if you're going to do separate Shopify's, but I think Etsy is just very, you can do separate Etsy shops or whatever as well. Let's see. Same thing happened to my small business. I wasn't ready when I got over 200 plus orders. I almost shut down my business. Yeah, so I did go viral a couple times last year, which TikTok is so confusing because I don't know. It was like the simplest video. I was like, why did this go viral? But anyway, I was getting orders. I was getting a lot of orders. And what I did was I shut it down. I shut the orders down, because if I would have kept taking orders, like my thing is I want to get orders out within a week. And if it gets to a point where the orders are too much to where I can't get that out within a week, then I'm going to shut it down. So I think I shut it down at 70 or something like that. But the thing is, the customer experience, you want them to come back. You want customers to come back to you, because repeat customers are going to be your best customers. So let's say a lot of those people just saw you on TikTok and they placed their order. A lot of them are going to be your first customer. So if you're taking months to get their order out, so let's say if you just keep your orders open and then you're like, oh, I'm just going to get, all of these orders. Is so great. I'm going viral. And then it takes you a month to get the orders out. How many of those people are going to come back to you? But if you kind of cut it off and say, hey, sold out, and then you service those customers that you got really, really well, they might come back. So for instance, there's one particular customer I have in mind. She found me on TikTok, but she's one of my best customers, and she always buys like a ton of stuff. Even on Christmas, she'll buy sometimes she'll buy twice in a week. But you really want to make sure the customers are taken care of, and you're not just taking orders because you see some big number on the screen. That can almost be a disaster, right? So if you don't have the resources or the help, shut your shop down. It's okay. And then you can fulfill those orders and then launch again, and hopefully those customers you serviced the first time were like, wow, I had such a great experience. My order shipped within a week. I would buy again from them, Let's see. Yeah, okay, so sold out. That's what I meant. Yep. For me, it happened overnight when I was asleep. Okay. So, yeah, I could see how that happened. You definitely want to set quantities too. So make sure your shop is where the quantities, you can't oversell things. So, that could happen. But I used to keep my notifications on at night, but then I would get too much. So now I don't have notifications at night. So possibly, but my quantities are never to where they're like really huge. So I always keep my quantities pretty on par with, what I have and stuff like that. So I never have like huge quantities unless I really have that thing, so maybe set where you can't oversell things. So that can be very stressful. Yeah. But that is our call for today. Or not our call, I said our call. That's our podcast for today. So thanks for tuning in on Small Biz and Coffee. Hopefully you got some good perspective on how to level up your business over time, not overnight, you guys, over time. So hopefully that was helpful, and thanks again for tuning in. I always enjoy talking to you guys. And let's see. Yeah, so thank you. I try to be back. I try to do this every 2 weeks, so that's all I can handle right now. Every week I just can't do that, but every 2 weeks I try to do Small Biz and Coffee. So look out for the next episode here in a couple of weeks, and thank you all for tuning in. Bye.